It is very true that it's through education that most societies are shaped, and when it comes to Africa, it's no different. In this video, we share the top 10 African countries with the best education systems as of the time of recording this video in 2022. This video might be able to guide your decisions, especially if you're a parent and you have plans of maybe moving or repatriating to a particular African country, because I'm very sure you would want the best for your children. At the end of this video, I'll also be sharing my remarks in regards to education on the African continent. And hey, if you're new here, welcome. On the channel, we share great stories about the African continent, so for future videos, be sure to like, subscribe, and also share this video with someone that you know would love to learn about the African continent. At number 10, we have Libya. Many people around the world know Libya mainly because of its past leader, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. But this North African nation is also very highly rated when it comes to education on the African continent. Education in Libya is mandatory to all children aged between 6 to 15 years. The country is also very big when it comes to vocational education, because the vocational schools in the country offer about 44 diverse key fields which are tailored to today's world. So definitely, Libya should be one of those countries on the African continent that should be on your education radar. The education system in Namibia is structured majorly into pre-elementary, elementary level, secondary, and also the tertiary levels of education. The elementary and secondary education in Namibia is mandatory because the Namibian government apportions at least 20% of its national budget to the education sector. At number 8 is Egypt. Here, children between 4 to 14 years are entitled to free education. In Egypt, children spend 6 years in primary school, 3 years in secondary, and other 3 years at the tertiary institutions of learning. The government in Egypt uses part of its national budget, and it also works with other international partners and organizations to be able to provide free education to some of the children in the country at all levels of education. Ghana is one of the African countries that adopted the British system of education that follows a 6-3-3-4 model of education. This basically means 6 years in elementary school, 3 years in junior secondary, 3 other years in senior secondary, and lastly 4 years of tertiary education. The Ghanaian government dedicates at least 23% of its national budget to the education sector. No wonder the country is one of the best in terms of education on the African continent. Algeria is one of the African countries with the highest literacy levels. The education system in Algeria flows in a 5-4-3 kind of education model, which is basically structured as elementary, secondary, and vocational levels respectively. Algeria has some of the best universities on the African continent, and students travel from all across the continent and other parts of the world to come and study in Algeria. Kenya, which is a country found in East Africa, has the best education system in the East African region. In Kenya, there are 8 years of primary education, and these are compulsory. On top of this, you add 4 years of secondary education and also 4 years of university education. The Kenyan government roughly dedicates 27% of its national budget towards the education sector. No wonder it appears on this top 10 list. Tunisia is one of the African countries that values and prioritizes education. The Tunisian government is always in continuous partnerships with both the local and some international organizations so as to develop the education sector in the country. In Tunisia, education is mandatory and free for all its citizens, right from elementary to the tertiary levels of education. In Mauritius, education is mandatory for all children up to the age of 16 years. This island nation has one of the highest literacy levels on the continent, and currently they stand at 84.4%. The students in the country are offered free transport to and from their schools by the government, making it very easy for them to commute between their schools and homes. In South Africa, education is mandatory up to the age of 15 years. The children in the country go through 6 years of primary school. The country in 2005 introduced the outcome-based education program that focuses on collaborative learning between the teachers and the students. Because of these numerous efforts by the South African government, South African universities today have been able to rank higher both on the continent and globally. And finally, at number 1, we have Seychelles. In Seychelles, education is completely free for all its citizens up to the age of 18 years. This island nation is the only African country that attained the UNESCO Education for All objective, and the country is ranked with 69.3 points according to the World Education Forum. The country also has the highest literacy levels on the continent, with 90% of its citizens being able to read and write. Well, those are the top 10 African countries with the best education systems on the continent. In my opinion, I believe that the best way to improve education on the continent would be through technical education and also vocationalizing education on the continent. So if our governments can actually adopt this, Africa would definitely be a better continent tomorrow. In the comments, let us know which amongst these 10 countries surprised you most, or which country you felt missed out on the list. Do not forget to also like, subscribe, and also share this video with someone that you know would love to learn about the African continent. Thank you so much for watching. We recommend you watch this next video for you to learn more about Africa.